Welcome to today's webinar. My name is McKay Allen. I am the content manager at Log My Calls, and we're excited you're joining us for this webinar today. Every Thursday, we have an industry expert on who shares with us their knowledge about a certain marketing topic, and we're excited to have today Michael Fleishner. He's the founder of Marketing Scoop, but also Upward SEO Consulting, which does everything from reputation management to SEO consulting itself. So we're excited to have Michael. He's an expert in the field, as you all know. He's been on more media outlets than I've probably watched, and so he certainly knows what he's doing. We're already having people ask if this webinar will be available. It will be. The recording will be made available on our website, and then we'll obviously make it available to Michael as well, so he can email it or however he wants to share it. You just go to logmycalls.com/webinar-series. You can see our upcoming webinars in the next couple of weeks, and then you can see down here past webinars where you can watch the webinar. There's no form to fill out or anything like that. You just can simply click on it, and the information will appear, the video will appear. So we encourage you to go and to watch the webinar once it's completed, and to ask questions today. So we're going to ask questions, open it up for Q&A at the conclusion of today's webinar with Michael. Just ask those questions, type them in the question bar, and then at the conclusion we'll address as many of those as we can get to in a reasonable amount of time. We'll try to have you out of here no later than 5:02 or 10:02, the top of the hour. The only other thing to mention before we begin is we do want to extend an offer to you with our service, Log My Calls. It is a call tracking and call analytics solution. So basically think of it like Google Analytics for the phone. It allows you to track which campaigns, sources, keywords, etc. are producing phone calls, and then actually helps you determine what happens on the phone call. So you can have a good click-to-call to close sort of conversion path there. So 30 days free. Just go to this page, 30-day trial, 30-day-trial, and use the coupon code DAMNGOOD as you sign up, and that'll give you 30 days for free. Damn good, because our mascot's a beaver, beaver dam. It's a bit of a stretch, we understand. So with that, I want to turn it over to Michael, and again, thank you for agreeing to do this, Michael, and thank you everybody for coming. Looks like we got a good crowd today, so we should have some good interaction as well. So Michael, anything that I missed in the introduction you think I should mention, perhaps?
I don't think so, but you're definitely a hard act to follow there, McKay.
Thanks, I appreciate that. So what I'll do, everybody, is I will give Michael control of the screen now so he can show us his presentation, and I'll step aside until the question portion. So Michael, go ahead whenever you're ready.
All right. Okay, hopefully you see my screen.
Yes, we do. You're good.
All right, fantastic. Well, welcome everybody, and McKay, special thanks to you. I definitely want to encourage everybody out there to check out your free trial. You know, when I started out in internet marketing probably 15 years ago, and yes, there was internet back then, although it was pretty rudimentary. You know, I had a boss early on who said, track everything. And at the time, I thought he was nuts, but 15 years later, I think he actually made some sense. So thanks for the introduction, McKay, and you know, I'm really excited to talk to everybody about my favorite topic, or one of my favorite topics, which is SEO. And really the goal of the presentation today is to help further your education as it relates to organic search. There have obviously been a lot of changes, and one of the things that's important for anyone, at least from my perspective, who is involved with marketing, is to continually listen, learn, participate, experience, and really increase your own knowledge. So hopefully I can do that for you today. We will be taking questions, and at the end of the presentation, I'll give you a way to get in touch with me, although you can always work through McKay and the folks that Log My Calls. All right, so today's topic is evolving with Google. And I have quite a few slides, so we're going to move relatively quickly. But, you know, I kind of use slides to help me tell a story, especially when it comes to SEO. It's something that I think is just generally more visual in nature, and, you know, that should help really stress all the points. All right, I'm going to go ahead and drive from here. Just a little background on me. McKay mentioned that I have appeared on media. The Today Show, USA Today actually just published something of mine recently. And really all of it is part of the SEO game. And what I mean by that is, as we're going to talk about later in this presentation, as Google has evolved and changed, they're really looking today for more engagement and social signals from websites, individuals, content that can help differentiate you from other people in organic search results. So that's a little teaser, and we'll talk about that in a little more detail. I do have currently the #1 selling book on SEO, and this is more than just a shameless plug. This is really a setup to say to everyone who's listening today, SEO seems really complicated, but I'm going to make it very simple for you. And it's these principles that I teach, that I talk about, that I share with others that I think haven't really changed all that much. They certainly have evolved because the Google algorithm has evolved, but the Google algorithm hasn't changed. And I'm doing air quotes, which you can't see at the moment. And the reason I use that term loosely is because at the end of the day, Google is still all about delivering a quality experience to the user. And if you keep that in mind, you'll always stay on track when it comes to search engine optimization. And McKay, I think we have a little lag in the slides changing here, so hopefully it'll catch up.
Yeah, it's looking like it's a little slow.
Let's see if we do this. We'll go manual.
There we go. That worked. Perfect. Now it's working.
Excellent. So what we're going to talk about today is really the case for SEO, just to get everybody grounded. We're going to talk about tips for keyword research and link building, which is really popular, although I'm going to spend a little more time on keyword research because people who do this right are the ones who come out on top. Of all the things that I teach others, keyword research is probably the most important. We're going to talk about SEO strategies for this year and beyond. You know, what is important today? There was a change, an algorithm change called Penguin, before that Panda. Google obviously loves zoo animals. I don't understand the infatuation there. But the outcome of that is some of the traditional techniques that people have used to influence organic rankings really are not as effective. So we're going to roll into social media and some general SEO strategies. And then we're going to talk about local and blended SEO, which is really important today. And as I mentioned earlier, we'll answer any questions you guys might have. So just to get everybody grounded, SEO, why is it important? Because SEO and email are the way people search, research, communicate, buy, share, etc. And although we've seen a growth in social networking sites, and Google's relying more on social networking sites, that is, in and of itself, isn't enough. We have to understand how that feeds into kind of the overall organic search picture. All right, so SEO, is it the silver bullet? Well, you know, since I'm in the business of SEO and I make a living doing SEO, I like to tell people that. But the reality is SEO is only one part of a comprehensive marketing strategy. And what that means is that if you rely on SEO alone, you will not be able to compete with the big boys. What you need to do is you need to think of it as a arrow in your quiver, certainly a large arrow and an effective arrow, but you have to have more than one arrow in your quiver if you want to win the war. So this is a great slide that I share. It's actually one of the pitch slides we use at Upward SEO to encourage our customers to understand that having the top organic search is good, and that's going to help you tremendously. But when you supplement that with other types of advertising, both online and offline, and here we're looking at pay-per-click marketing, for example, studies have shown a higher purchase intent. So when people see you organically and they see you in the paid results, you generally get a better result. And Google queries continue to grow. People rely more and more heavily on SEO. I don't know what movie it was, but recently I saw a movie where two guys were looking at a computer and joking, saying, yeah, the internet's just a fad. Well, Google, people have said, will really lose its dominance based on Facebook and some of these other social media sites. But the reality is people are still using Google predominantly. They're using it in large numbers. And in fact, there are more searches on Google every day than Yahoo and Bing combined. All right, so organic search. What is the value of search engine traffic? And I kind of look at it in two ways. People go to the web to either do research, that could be product research, looking for information, sharing, so research is one, purchase is another, so they're going to the web to buy, or they're going to the web to share, and that could be via social media or some other means. So when we think about it, however, if we are selling a product, offering a service, it really becomes much more than that. And this is due to Google's evolution to universal search results. In the past, if you typed something, some query, a keyword string, you would get results that were simply landing pages. They're simply websites. Today, it's much more than that. You're going to find blogs. You're going to find videos. You're going to find news sites. You're going to find social media feeds. You're going to find images, product listing ads, and other types of advertising. So it's really become a diverse landscape, if you will, and I'm going to show you how to navigate it. But I think really the takeaway is that this creates a lot of opportunity to compete. Even if you're a small player, even if you're a local dentist or a doctor, even if you have a small presence online, you can generally compete if you're doing the right thing. Now, good SEO is actually easier than it looks. I mentioned this in the beginning with SEO Made Simple. There are basic tenets that if you follow, you can do well. Once you get to that point, there are then additional techniques and strategies that you can use, really building on what you've done, to do even better. So let me show you kind of this SEO pyramid, and I wish I could take credit for this, but I have to thank Rand Fishkin, our friends over at SEO Mods, who put this together, and this is really the SEO pyramid. And what it shows is the way in which good organic rankings are born. And it really starts at the bottom. It starts with accessible quality content. And this is more important than it's ever been because of the recent Google algorithm changes. They are actually penalizing sites for duplicate content. They're penalizing sites that have links from less than desirable websites. So a lot of things that we used to not have to worry about today from an SEO perspective, we have to take a closer look at. And a great example of quality content is, for example, Log My Calls. Every Thursday, they have a speaker on. They're making that content available. There are no registration walls. Google is indexing all that content, and it just gets produced on and on and on. People share it, so on and so forth. The next area, which we've already touched on, is keyword research. And keyword research, which we'll look at in a moment, is essential because I think people have kind of wised up to the idea that you can't easily compete for very short keyword phrases. And the reality is you don't want to. I did work for a local manufacturer, and they wanted to rank well for closet doors. But the problem with that is if I do a search for closet doors, well, what am I looking for? Am I actually looking to buy? Am I looking to research? Am I looking to understand closet doors for a high school project? No one really knows. So people have gotten much more intelligent about keyword research, and I'm going to show you how to do that properly so that when someone types in a certain keyword phrase, they're the right person for your product or service. The next piece is link building, and link building, again, some of the techniques that we've traditionally used. are no longer effective, so I'll show you some new ways to build quality links to your site. And then finally, social. And I think that social and link building are almost one and the same, because when you expand your engagement and your social outreach, you're actually building quality links to your website. So you have to get the first two rungs of the pyramid right, and then you can focus on the top two. You know, if all you do is go out and create a gazillion social media accounts, but you haven't really optimized your website to make it accessible, to focus on certain quality keywords, haven't done any link building, then social in and of itself will not help you, or at least not help you significantly when it comes to improving your organic search rankings. All right, let's talk a minute about keyword research. Well, what is keyword research? Keyword research is finding a keyword that breaks down like this. It has enough volume that it makes it interesting. I sat down with a client, actually they're a major association that does work in the education area, and initially he said, hey, we don't need SEO because when someone types in my association name, I come up first. So I said, all right, well, let's take a look at how many people are actually doing that, which everyone here can do. There's a free tool, the Google AdWords keyword tool, that you can use to look at search volume. And he was very surprised at how few people actually type in the name, the full name of his association. They're finding him through other keywords related to his niche or his space. So you want to find keywords that have enough volume to make it interesting, and that means, and that's all dependent on your niche. If you're selling, you know, a $14,000 exercise bike, which I see advertised in Sky Mall or wherever I see that, then you've got a really small market potentially. So maybe having 500 searches a month is enough for you. But generally, as a rule of thumb, I like to see 3,000 or more searches on a particular keyword phrase. You're looking for something that's low competition. And of course, the question is, well, how do you know if it's competitive or not? I'll show you that on the next few slides. And also high value. So you want to, again, track everything. We talked about that earlier. So organically, using Google Analytics, for example, you'll be able to get your arms around what keywords are driving people to the site. You can see where they navigate. And if you're using Google Conversion Tracking or some other type of tracking software, you can actually see what keywords are driving conversion. If you have all of those three, if you spend the time up front to get that done, you will in fact find the ideal keywords for your website, blog, or other digital assets. This is a Google AdWords keyword tool I mentioned earlier. Now, there used to be a fantastic tool that Microsoft actually developed through Ad Labs called the Commercial Intent Tool. And essentially what this thing would let you do is type in a keyword phrase, and it would spit out the commercial intent, which was also known as someone's probability to transact. That means they could fill out a form on your site, they could purchase something. And some people were saying, well, how on earth do they know that? Well, they did that through their ad network. And they track all the way through to purchase and develop this tool for purchase intent. Well, I think they got in trouble because obviously they were tracking people's behavior online, generally without them knowing, and that tool was removed. So now, as an SEO, when I say, okay, what keywords should I optimize for, I really didn't have a good way of saying, okay, well, if we say buy closet doors, that would be a good keyword to optimize for. So what we have to do now is we have to use tools like the Google AdWords keyword tool, which has actually gotten much more sophisticated. So if you see here, if I look at travel Peru, you know, travel to Peru or travel in Peru is getting a lot of searches, and we see that the competition is high. So that could be used as an indicator to say that people who are Googling this are likely to want to actually travel to Peru. So again, the Google AdWords tool, using kind of the competition, which used to be just based on the number of advertisers, actually has some additional intelligence built into it. All right, so if we were to do a search for keywords, and we kind of went through that exercise, we looked at volume, we looked at, the other criteria that I talked about, people ultimately struggle with the second one, competition. How do you know that a keyword is competitive? Now, as an SEO, I have a lot of tools at my disposal which will help me with that research, but nothing beats taking a look yourself. And that's really what I wanted to show you here. Even if you haven't been in SEO for a week, a month, a year, anyone can look at this page and say, okay, if I was thinking about a keyword, things to do in Lima, Peru, would you or would you not find that to be competitive? And looking at the results, I can tell you, assuming I was a mom and pop travel agent or travel site, that particular keyword is very competitive because I don't think I can outrank TripAdvisor or Yahoo Travel. And quite honestly, you could focus on that keyword for a long time, spend a lot of money, and never be able to outrank them, only because they are just so large and authoritative that I would tend to look at other keywords that might be less competitive. So here's a place in Peru, the food market, and here, when I search on it, the results are very different. The first result is virtual tourist, the second one is a blog, the third one is a video, then it looks like another couple of travel sites, there's a review on TripAdvisor. So there, the competition is less. Why? Because the sites that are ranked in the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th positions don't appear to be as authoritative or demanding as a Yahoo, as a TripAdvisor, so on and so forth. So when I talk about competition, again, you can use all the tools you want in the world, but nothing beats taking an actual hard look at the search results you're going to find on Google. The tool that I do use, which is SEO Moz, actually gives you a competitive ranking or score, and this is based on their algorithm, largely dependent on how old the site is, how large, how many pages they have, how many other websites link to them, so on and so forth. So this gives me an additional layer of intelligence, but again, nothing really beats going out and looking at who's currently ranked for that keyword. All right, so we talked a little bit about quality content. We talked about the keyword research that we need. Now, what about link building? Everybody's been talking about link building, and if you've been following SEO at all, you know that when Google made their update, people started saying things like, SEO is dead. Link building is no longer effective. There's just no way to focus on organic search. And the reality is that link building is still a key component. We just need to think about it a little differently. So what I wanted to talk about and encourage everyone on the call to do is to think about link building more so as engagement. And this is going to obviously parlay into our conversation on social, but engagement means that what you say about yourself is a lot less important than what others say about you, especially if they're an authority. So, for example, if, let's say, John Smith appears on the Oprah show, and John Adams doesn't appear on the Oprah show, just by the very nature, the association with an authority like Oprah, you're going to give more weight to John Smith. So that's what we mean when we say we want to really focus on getting engagement outside our comfort zone with others that have some authority. And this is a great example. What is an authoritative website? Well, your .govs, your .edus, sites that are hard to get links on. And, many people get discouraged because they say, wow, if it's hard to get a link, I don't want it. But the reality is the quality links are the ones that require relationships, associations, quid pro quos. and other things that make it difficult to appear on those sites. All right, now this is really important, and this is a significant, huge change for 2013 that I really wanted to share with everyone. Google is now penalizing sites, websites, based on their link profiles. And what I mean by that is, up until about 8 months ago, if you wanted to build links to your site, you could build links with the anchor text. So that's the text that actually appears on the page. This is actually the HTML. So, if you're looking at this, let me just highlight this for everybody. The anchor text is here, but this whole thing is what you would call the HTML code that delivers that text. But the point here is that you used to be able to stuff your keywords into the anchor text, and it was okay. Google said, hey, if your anchor text said marketing expert and every link pointing to your site said marketing expert, well, you must be the marketing expert. But they wised up to that and said, wow, people are really manipulating the system. That's not natural. What is natural is when sites list you, they list your URL. So the URL would obviously, in this case, be upwardseoconsulting.com, or a derivation of that, www.upwardseoconsulting.com. Now what they're looking for is a natural link profile that's comprised of 60 to 70% your URL. So that could be http://example.com or www.example.com or example.com. And the other 30 to 40% would use and integrate keywords. Okay, so here it might be upwardseoconsulting.com reputation management. So where people were putting emphasis was really on this anchor text and using their keywords in the anchor text, and now it's the opposite, meaning that you need to use your URL more than you're using the keyword phrase you're trying to optimize for. Now people are saying, well, then how can Google really rank you for a particular keyword phrase? The reality is they're using many more factors now, not just link text. They're looking on page as well as off page. So that's one thing that's really important for everybody to understand. And really the anatomy here is, you've got your URL. You may have some coding. This rel equals do follow is important. If you're trying to build links, you want to make sure it is a do follow link as opposed to what we have here, which is a no follow link. This is the correct way up here. No follow, you don't want to see. Here's surrounding text, which needs to be relevant to your anchor text. And the anchor text is what appears on your particular web page. All right, let's move here. All right, so manual link building. I recently had a question from someone around link building, and they said, Michael, what is the fastest, most efficient way to build quality links to my website? And my answer was simply look at your competitors. And let me give you an example. Let's go back to the manufacturer who's selling closet doors. He may go to the website, to Google, and type purchase closet doors. And he's going to find sites, which probably are not his, ranked in the number 1, 2, and 3 positions. The best way to build links when you're starting out is to look at the link profiles of your competitors and try to match that link strategy. So for example, if the number 1, 2, and 3 websites had links from, let's say, 100 sites, you would then want to go to each one of those sites and see if you could get them to point a link to your site. Now, we don't have enough time to go into all of those techniques, but when it comes to link building, matching the strategy of the top-ranked websites is one of the easiest and most efficient ways to start your link building campaign, if you will. And again, I say start your campaign because you need links from many diverse sources, and there are a number of different link building strategies, but that's one of the quickest and fastest ways. Here I have two tools, Site Explorer as well as Majestic SEO, which can help with that process. I'm not sure if they have free trials or not, but those are the tools that I use really to help with that link building process. The other way, and we talked about links that are hard to get but truly valuable, here's a link from a .edu site. Actually, that title there links to one of my web properties, and this was a presentation that I gave. So think about the niche that you're in. Is there an association? Is there a local school or university? Is there a chamber of commerce that would be willing to have you come in and do a presentation and publish information about you or your bio on their website and link back to your website? So you have to think out of the box. Here's another example. This is Ad Age, their Power 150. They've created a badge. And recently we did work for a client who does online bookings. And any restaurant, service provider that uses their software actually puts a link on their site with a badge saying that you can make online reservations quickly and easily. Well, all those links point back to their website, and that is in essence giving them authority, link juice, quality inbound links that otherwise would be hard to get. So again, natural link building just requires a little out-of-the-box thinking, or looking perhaps at competitors or other people in your space and how they might be acquiring through quality links. So here's kind of the full list of stages you can go through from a link building process. There's some general directories, organizations, even classified ads. You may be surprised, but putting a listing in Craigslist, or actually we see a lot of stuff coming from LinkedIn now, Monster, other job boards. Those are quality links that are coming into your site. Blogs, forums, profiles. Blogging in terms of content generation and content development, it has really become more popular, but you want to try to find blogs in your niche. And as someone who runs a blog, I can tell you that we're always looking for quality content, and you need to ask for a link. So if there is a blog in your niche that you respect, you need or should consider approaching them and saying, hey, I've got some quality content. It's 100% unique. I'll write it specifically for you. All I ask is that you link back to my website. Other things to look at, niche directories, article sites. Article sites we don't really use anymore, but certainly if there are directories within your niche, you should consider them. News, PR, social media, those are great resources for link building. And as we just talked about, looking at key influencers, high authority websites like .edus or .govs, where you can somehow get your link on there. The goal needs to be to have fewer yet higher quality links pointing to your website. All right, now we're going to just roll into social media and SEO, because link building really has a pretty strong presence among social media. Every time that you are posting something on Facebook or tweeting something, that content is live, and it's being picked up, it's being bookmarked, it's being shared, it's being liked. And every time those transactions happen, they're being recorded in some way, shape, or form on the web. And if you have a link that's pointing to your website, the benefit accrues to you. This is a great example that Rand, I mentioned Rand Fishkin, he's the CEO of SEO Moz. They ran an experiment a while back, which I still talk about today because it's just so amazing. They wanted to see if using Twitter and other social media, if they could influence the organic ranking of a website. So essentially what Rand did, he's got a pretty large list of followers, he sent out a tweet and said, hey, right now this URL, this website is ranked 45th, and let's see if all we do is tweet about it, share it, create engagement, like we talked about earlier, can we influence the ranking of this particular web page? So here it is, and I apologize I don't have the dates on here. I believe this experiment kind of happened over a 4 to 6 week period, but they were ranked 42nd for this URL. I'm sorry, that was May. So this is in a week. In a week, it went from like the 4th to the 17th. Moved up to result 13. How did it do it? Simply through social media. All right, so if you're saying, well, I don't have time for social media, or I don't even have a Twitter account, then I would encourage you to not only get started, but invest in some tools, and there's some cheap ones out there like Hootsuite. You know, for $5 a month, you can very efficiently manage all of your social media accounts. And basically what this all came back was, or what it came back with, was that social media can influence your ranking in a number of ways, whether that is using Google, using Twitter, obviously using Facebook, and using Facebook actually had a bigger influence than linking. The third result down, number of linking C blocks to page. C blocks means, think of it as just websites, you know, authoritative websites. So you could try to do all the link building in the world, but you're actually better off encouraging people to share your web page or web pages via Facebook. Okay, so social media is really more important than ever, and for this year, for 2013, if you needed to invest, yes, you should be link building, yes, you should be producing quality content, but you should be leveraging those things across social media. So whether it's a webinar, whether it's a white paper, or a case study, make sure to push those things out via social media and ask people to share. This is just a shot of Google+. I've gotten a lot of questions about Google+, and the takeaway here is yes, I believe Google is putting more emphasis on not just social in general, but also social they own. So if you don't have a Google+ page, more importantly, if you don't have a Google Places page, you should get that set up today. The other thing, too, is if you're logged into Google, generally you're going to see things that other people don't, especially if they're among your circles. In Google and Google+, they're not called friends, they're called circles. So Google+ is, you know, again, kind of gaining some momentum, so I would encourage you to take a deeper look at Google+. Of course, there are other networks to consider. If you're a local business, I'd encourage you to hop on Foursquare, YouTube, Pinterest. All of these networks are really, really, really important. Okay, so the last thing, or one of the last things I'm going to talk about is local blended SEO. I call it local soup. We were doing some work here locally for a dentist, and what was interesting is if you just search for a dentist in Robbinsville, New Jersey, you're going to get everything from local listings to advertising to maps to organic websites to ratings and other assets appearing on the page. So in order to compete in this arena, you need to do everything we've been talking about, really starting with keyword research and getting more specific. So here in this situation, although we did optimize around this particular keyword phrase from a local perspective, we also optimized for other keyword phrases that were more specific, like root canal in Robbinsville, New Jersey, and things of that nature, because it was a lot less competitive, and we were able to get this particular dentist ranking well with a lot less effort than we would for a more general term. Here's another thing that people see, especially around local, that I did want to mention because for 2013, it's really important. And if you were in my business, you would see multiple articles and mentions of this every day, and that is the author tag. So what Google's trying to do now is they're trying to get their arms around who the influencers are. Why? Because they're all about determining the authority of given websites, but now they're going so far as the authority of certain individuals. So for example, if you are President Obama or you write for USA Today, generally you're going to have more influence than someone who works at the local gas station. Why? How can they tell that? Well, they can tell that now with the help of the author tag. And the author tag essentially is your way to claim your content on the web. So I'm just showing this as an example. Again, I've done entire webinars on author and news tags. But one thing that's important, because I'm sure you guys have seen it as you've done searches, is to really look at that author tag, because that's the way that you not only create a more engaging result in organic search, but increase click-throughs as well, which is vital to the Google algorithm. Also, as part of blended search, there are videos. So I encourage you to look at YouTube and start to produce. Even this one is interesting, and the reason I use this is we want to see how quickly we could get a video ranking on the first page. Now this is really targeted, it's a niche phrase, but the whole point was, what does it take to get ranked? And this, I used my Android smartphone to film a video in my office and populate it on YouTube, and Google, which owns YouTube, is now importing these results into organic search. So you don't need big budgets, you don't need to spend a lot, you don't need to make a huge investment in terms of time, but you need to be aware that organic results, especially in 2013 and moving forward, aren't just web pages. It's images, it's videos, it's maps, it's local listings from Google Places, so on and so forth. Okay, so the last piece I'm just going to talk about here for a few minutes, and then maybe, McKay, we can take some questions, is local. So things are moving to local in a very big way, and they have been for some time, and I'm just amazed at how many businesses do not have, for example, a Google Places account, or they're not thinking in a local way when they produce web pages or content. Now, some of you may be saying, well, I run an online business, I don't have a physical location, and I would say that's okay. Most of my businesses, not all, but most are virtual as well, but I've created Google Places pages for my brand or for my products so that they will start to show up in local search, because generally people are being confronted with local search results. I've seen some data that says, I don't know if I believe the statistic, but as high as 97% of consumers use online media to shop, find local businesses, do research for products and services. 82% of consumers who actually perform local searches go ahead and contact the business, visit the location, make purchases. I would add read reviews, which is something else that we'll talk about in a moment. So all of these components, including social media, are happening not just nationally, but at a local level. And some of the factors that you need to think about if you are going to engage in local optimization is the physical address that you're putting in, the authority of the website, what you're doing on your Google Places landing page, right? So all the elements that we try to optimize web pages for, we need to optimize our local profiles. Whether you're using Yelp or Yellow Pages or Google Plus or all of the above, you really need to think about what keywords are you trying to optimize for and use them in the appropriate places in addition to your general information on the page. Quantity and quality of reviews being published is important. Structured citations, so citations are listings, business listings. And this, by the way, actually is a really great way if you're a local business to improve your online reputation. There are many citation-related sites. I mentioned a few, whether that be Yellow Pages, Super Pages, City Search. There are dozens of these, where you can actually post your physical address and information about your business, and those will show up in local results. So it's a great way to manage your online reputation. Local area code on place page. So you can see that local search factors are very much tied into Google Places and having a Google Places account. And the other thing, too, is what I see, especially for service providers, they're not always filling out their online profiles completely. You know, if you go to my LinkedIn profile, it's really long. I think you can learn anything and everything you need to or ever wanted to, which I hope isn't that much, about Michael Fleishner. And the reason is because by filling that out, there's more data there for Google to crawl. And because it's an authoritative website, generally, it's going to pull that into search results when people are Googling my name. Click-through and engagement rates. So this is really a good point to finish the first part of the presentation on, because Google is looking at engagement, which we've touched on, not just in local, but also in general organic search. So people say, well, you know, why is my site ranked higher or lower than someone else? Google has over 200 factors they use in their search algorithm, but one of the more important things that we're seeing is that sites that have higher click-through rates in search results are actually improving their ranking. So you want to think about that when you create your metadata. Some of you obviously know what that means. For those of you who don't understand how you tag your content and the use of meta tags, essentially when you create meta tags in the code of a web page, what you place there is really important, your title and your description. So you want to make sure it's keyword focused, but it also gives someone reasons to click through. So just some final thoughts for 2013. Go back to the pyramid. We want to make sure that we've got accessible quality content. They've optimized your web page as well. And you want to have a long-term view of where you're going. Remember, this is not a sprint. It's a marathon. But the good news with organic search is once you put in the time and the investment to get your primary keywords ranked where you want them to be, if you've done it correctly, it will have staying power. So it's not a flash in the pan. And generally, that's what we see people relying on. But even if you put a press release out there and it's on page 1 for a certain keyword phrase, it's probably not going to be there long. Be a content development machine. Google loves content, but they only love content if it's unique, if it's original, if it's not duplicated, and if other people tell them they should like it, meaning they're sharing it on Facebook, they're tweeting about it, they're sharing it on their Google Plus page. Engage your audience. I think what's a little different today is that, you know, if you build it, they will come, just doesn't work. You need to let people know about what you're offering, and you need to ask them directly to share it. Again, going back to reputation management, we offer a service of reviews. After someone leaves a review for a client, a window pops up that says, tell all your friends. You know, tweet it, share it on Facebook, so on and so forth. So again, it's not just enough to do a one-to-one. You really need to do a one-to-many to engage your audience. And then finally, you need to monitor your results. You're not going to get better unless you know where you're coming from. So one of the first steps, if you haven't already done it, get Google Analytics on your site. It's free. It's easy to implement. But it will help give you some insight into your organic data. And if you follow those 4 steps and repeat it, you will start to see some pretty significant positive impact on your organic search results. So that's it. We're going to take some questions. And, you know, I know one thing I do want to say, I know at this point people generally tend to drop off. But, you know, sometimes I find that people, if someone's asking a question, a lot of people have that question. So I want to make sure that, you know, we're able to answer your questions. And what I would like to do also is to let you know that if you want to get in touch with me, you can call the business 609-310-1808 or reach me through support@upwardseo.com. And if you mention that you're on the webinar, we'd be happy to provide you with a free 15-minute online reputation evaluation, which will help you from a professional perspective with regard to your results on Google. McKay, is now a good time to take some questions?
Yeah, it's perfect. Thank you very much. That was awesome. We've got a lot of questions coming in, so I'm just going to pound through these as quickly as we can, Michael, and hopefully we get to as many quality ones as we can. First, I want to discuss reputation management a little bit. We just got back from SMX Search Marketing Expo in San Jose, and the big topic of conversation there, you covered one of them, was authorship. The other one was reputation management. That's especially critical for local businesses, of course, given the Yelps and the Google Plus locals of the world. What do you do if you give us sort of an overall brief strategy for reputation management if you can, and number two, what do you do if you're either A, not getting reviews, or B, getting poor reviews?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and it really is kind of multifaceted. But since time is limited, I would say that first of all, you got to assess where you are. So if you do the search, it's important to really, literally write down what your results are, where they're from. Are they positive, negative, or neutral? One of the things we're dealing with in our business a lot, we get customers calling all the time saying, rip-off report. Somebody put a review on ripoffreport.com, and it's showing up second or third, and now people aren't buying from me. Well, there are sites out there, McKay, as you know, that are really authoritative. So if somebody puts a review on there, it's going to show up in organic search results. But more often than not, what we find is that the reason those sites appear higher than, let's say, neutral or positive listings is because the neutral or positive listings aren't really all that authoritative at all. So what an individual really needs to do is they need to increase, this is obvious, but they need to increase the ranking of those neutral and positive results to push down the negative results. Because in many situations, it's not as easy as calling someone and saying, I'm sorry the waiter was mean to you, I'm sorry, whatever, can you help us if we do X, Y, and Z? Although sometimes you can do that. Most of the times, it really comes down to optimizing results that are probably already appearing, but they're just not appearing in the top 10 results.
And do you help people do that, Michael? I mean, is that part of what you offer?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we do, largely companies and businesses that have products, let's say, that have negative results. But more and more, we have professionals, high-worth individuals who have things appearing, in search results that they want to get rid of. And, it's a two-pronged approach. It's one, cleaning up what's there through various means and tactics. And the second step is really defending against it in the future by creating some really valuable assets that are well optimized. And then that way, if somebody does leave a negative review, it's not going to appear on the first page.
Awesome. So I have a few technical questions for you here. So let's, I'll read a few of these off. How do you implement cross-domain rel canonical? And I believe what that means, if I'm correct, is if you write something on someone else's site, how do you take authorship credit for that? Or can you? Does that question make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's somewhat difficult. Usually the best way to do that is if you're going to submit content to another website, that you actually submit it as HTML and embed the author tag. And then you go out to your Google Plus page once it's published and claim the content. So, it's not a perfect science, right? A lot of it comes down to timing. But I think in some ways I would be less concerned about claiming authorship for content that I'm writing for other sites as opposed to claiming authorship even on my own owned domains. So, again, the key is once you do publish something, going out to your Google Plus profile and indicating where that content resides. That's probably the best place to do it. I think this idea of canonicalization gets a little complicated, especially when it's cross-domain. But, canonical tags are definitely a big savior for sites that have a lot of duplicate content because it indicates to Google what page they should be basically passing all the juice to.
Okay. And then sort of a piggyback off that one, let's say you do write a guest blog post for somebody or an article appears on some other domain. Should you publish that also on your site, or is that a poor thing to do because of the duplicate content issues?
Yeah, so essentially what we used to prescribe in the past was to always publish on your site first and then share that content out. Now, because of the duplicate content pages, you're actually better off just letting the other site publish it with a do follow link back to your website.
Okay. Here's a couple more questions. All right, so how does one handle SEO for a business that has 40 plus, 50 plus locations? Would you recommend taking a corporate approach to SEO or having individual locations manage that SEO?
I would definitely take a corporate approach. However, I would make sure that each of the individual businesses is really focused on local SEO. So each individual business should have a Google Places page, for example. I've also seen, we deal with a regional industrial cleaner, and what he did with his site was for each location, he produced unique content off of his national site with location information, Google Maps, local address, local phone number, local page titles. So it was, company name / New Jersey, company name / Pennsylvania, so on and so forth. So there are a couple of ways to do that based on the presence, but I think regardless of what strategy you choose, each individual location should definitely have some local citations, specifically Google Places pages.
Okay. We're having a few questions also about wanting a little bit of clarification. You talked a little bit about the anchor text and how URL is now more important within that structure. So I think the question is, let me just read it here. So you said 60 to 70% they use the URL. I'm assuming this does not mean the on-page link text. Can you just sort of explain that again? So instead of using anchor text, for example, with us, if we write a blog about X, Y, or Z, not making sure we have a link to call tracking in that anchor text, is that that seems to be less important is what you're saying?
Right, exactly. So, and I know that can be a little confusing for people, but that's a great example, McKay. So, in 70% of the instances where you're putting links into your content, especially if they're coming from third-party sites, which is really what this is all about, you would want that to say, learn more about call tracking at http://www.logmycalls.com. The other 30% of the time, because again, Google's looking at this holistically with regard to their algorithm, 30% of the time, you're going to want to change that up. You're going to want to use maybe a combination of logmycalls.com and call tracking or call tracking related keywords, and maybe 10 or 20% of the time just use call tracking. Because what they're going to do, the way they're going to get their information is not just from that anchor text. They're actually going to follow it to your web page, and they're going to look at your metadata and other things that are on your site to really understand what your site offers.
And a piggyback to that one, someone's asking, what about, because what you're saying there is for off-site content, what about on-site content? What about in your own blog or in your own homepage? Is it wise to use anchor text for your predominant keywords, or keywords as your anchor text, I should say?
Yeah, I mean, it certainly couldn't hurt. Generally on page, Google tends, at least from the research that we've done, tends to look at your navigation for keyword direction. But it doesn't hurt to support that with internal content, especially internally with regard to the page. In other words, Google has started to discount, to some degree, keywords or links that are on the outside or at the bottom of a page because really anybody could create those. It's much more difficult to create links from within the body of the page. So I would say yes, if you can use your keywords and anchor text internally, it's a great idea.
Okay. Let me see here in terms of other questions we have. I'll just do a couple more, Michael, if you've got another couple minutes.
Sure.
Okay, here's a good question. He said, this person asked, okay, I'm getting reports about different places, broken links on my site. A, does that hurt SEO, and is there a comprehensive place to diagnose where you might have broken links? And I guess they're meaning they're not going to the correct place. Is there a place where you can diagnose all of those on your site? And how badly does that hurt SEO?
The answer is it does hurt. How badly? The answer is no one really knows. But Google is looking at the quality of the website and weighing that in terms of the search results. So for example, if you have site A that has 100 links and 98 of them are broken, and you've got another site with 100 links and not a single one is broken, where do you think they want people to go? They generally, if all things are equal, want them going to a site that is properly coded, the links are working, and they're generally going to have a good user experience. So I would say if you have one or two broken links, it's probably not a big deal. But if you start to get to a point where 10 to 15% of your links or more are broken, that's something you definitely want to fix. There are plenty of tools out there that can help you do that. The free one is called Xenu, which is actually spelled XENU.com. I think it's .com, but that's a tool that you can run a diagnostic on your site. It'll return all of the broken links and help you find those pretty easily.
Great. Okay, folks, a couple announcements, and then we'll ask Michael one more question. We'll be done. We do want to make sure if you have additional questions, mention this webinar to Michael with the contact info on the screen there, and he'll give you a free 15-minute reputation evaluation, which is invaluable in today's climate of SEO, especially for local businesses. So take Michael up on that offer. We would also encourage you to take us up on the offer for a free 30-day trial of Log My Calls. We find, especially in the local space, the vast majority of local searches end up producing a phone call. So it's going to be critical for you to track how many of those calls you're generating via your improved marketing efforts. The only other question that we, let's see here, there's several others, but I'll just choose one. In terms of if your site got hammered by the latest Google, I guess the latest one was what, Penguin? If your site got hammered by Penguin, is the best thing sort of just to step back and say, okay, I'm going to follow these steps that you've outlined today and sort of start from scratch? Because I know a lot of SEO firms and a lot of businesses were left scratching their heads after Penguin. Any just sort of Cliff's Notes on how to just approach if you got hammered by Penguin?
Yeah, no, absolutely, McKay. And I have to tell you, after that update, within the first few months, our phone was ringing quite often. And, the story was always the same, right? We got hit by Penguin, what do we do? So, without spending a lot of time on it, I would give folks 2 tips that would be a good starting place. The first is to look at your link profile. It seems that, and again, this is based on the clients that we've worked with, where they took the biggest hit was because they were getting links from websites that really had little authority or value. So, and again, there are tools out there. You could use SEO mods. You could use a tool called Temper, which is actually spelled C-E-M-P-E-R. But look at that inbound link profile to your website, because generally that's where the problem is. So you'd have to go and ask people to remove your link, or use what's called the Google Disavow tool to tell Google not to, look at those links. But that's generally the best place for people to start. And then I would say the second tip is to think about what you're going to do going forward. What are you going to do around quality content, unique content, adding pages to your website, sharing via social media. And if you follow those 2 steps, and again, I know they're simple, they're not necessarily easy, but in most cases we've seen sites rebound from the Penguin update.
Great. Michael, thank you very much for the time, sir. We appreciate it. And everybody, thank you for attending today. In terms of this presentation being available to you, I want to switch back to me, my screen, so you can actually see where that will be, where that will appear. We will have the presentation available on this page, webinar-series, after you do logmycalls.com. You have our future webinars, and then as soon as I get off this call and have time to render the video, I'll put Michael's webinar right here, so you can just click on the little button and watch it again. So we encourage you to share the crap out of the link. As Michael just said, that's useful. So share the heck out of this link so everybody can watch this webinar. And then in terms of you getting emailed the link, we'll send out an email in the next couple of days that'll have the link on it as well. So Michael, any last words?
No, I just want to thank you, McKay, and thank Log My Calls, and really encourage everyone out there to continue learning, growing, and sharing.
Great. Michael, thank you for your time, and everybody, thank you for attending today. We appreciate it. Have a wonderful afternoon, everybody.